So can you elaborate on what hypergamy is?
Yeah, simply put, hypergamy is dating up. It's just wanting someone in a higher tax bracket, someone who's taller, someone who has more resources, and it makes sense. For a very long time, women, and even today, women were at the mercy of male dominance. Again, men had money, muscles, manpower. Women had higher risks of threats from males. And so hypergamy evolved as a strategy for women who were, again, in a deficit when it came to the mating game. What is interesting about hypergamy today is that it's sort of a mismatch. I call it's called an evolutionary mismatch, but let me explain what that is. So I use an analogy or comparison with why we have an obesity crisis. Human beings prehistorically did not have access to carbs, starches, and processed sugars. To gain energy, we had to use energy. And so we evolved to constantly be in this sort of caloric deficit. If there was feast, we got fructose from trees or sugar from bees. And that was it. It was vegetables or protein. But now in the modern world, fast forward, there are calories everywhere and we're sedentary. Here's where the mismatch comes in. Modern humans still have the programming, the instincts, the metabolism of our ancient ancestors. So now, if we're sedentary and we can easily access calories, that is now a problem because we're not using enough energy and the food is jam-packed with energy that your ancestors would have never been able to obtain. There are videos of people trying to make their own cereal. It's by the time you made it, you would deserve that bowl. It'd be hours and hours. So that is the mismatch. How it relates to hypergamy is for most of our prehistoric history, women have been they've been dominated by males. And so now, over time, to adapt, women have had to engage in a strategy where they date up. A woman who married or settled with or took chances with a poor man probably did not increase her chances that her children would have survived. And if those children didn't survive, they did not pass that specific predilection onto their offspring. And so over time, the women that chose males, even if males that were ambitious, not necessarily rich, but even slightly more ambitious, even slightly more potential than the next guy and the next guy and the next guy, over time, this accumulated into the strategy of hypergamy. Now, hypergamy is mismatched because women are boss babes now. We don't have the same obstacles as we did in the past. It doesn't mean there aren't still obstacles. It just means that compared to the last, we don't have to go back that far, 300 years, women have gained made massive inroads into being able to provide for themselves, into being able to be safe, into being able to have, yes, they've rolled back some reproductive rights, but there's still a lot of progress that has been made. And so comparatively, women can do more and achieve more. But yet that woman, that modern woman who happens to make 100 grand is still hypergamous. That is an evolutionary mismatch because it leads to, I wouldn't say negative outcomes, but it leads to outcomes that are counterproductive. Just like eating and consuming too many calories and not exercising enough is counterproductive to how we've adapted. If a woman is making 100K and now expects a guy to be a millionaire, I would say that is counterproductive only in the fact that there aren't enough men to go around who are like that. And so as more women engage in a hypergamous strategy, that leaves those women with what has been called the Chads. And so the Chads, the 0.1%, are not incentivized to settle down because most women are chasing the same men. These men are inundated with offers and a surplus of women. They have a surplus of money, so flying them out, paying for experiences and dinners is nothing to them. And so hypergamy, strangely and ironically and paradoxically enough, only hurts Charlotte. Because if she's only interested in short term, which is what Chandler is mostly interested in, she cannot hope to acquire long-term effort and commitment from men who have so many more options that they don't know what to do with. And so the trade-off with women who choose hypergamy is that there is a huge risk in them choosing a man who has too many options and is not incentivized enough to provide commitment. That's why you hear a lot of women say that all men are dogs, when the reality is the strategy that these women have chosen is giving them the outcome that men are dogging them out. Most men aren't dogs. Most people aren't anything. It's just that if you choose a certain strategy and you don't know the part that strategy plays in the wider context of incentives and behavior, you are going to blame the entire system, which is like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. That's what this book does. It shows you why we make the decisions by starting out with your position in the game. It gives you sort of the options of all the decisions that you can make and what are the trade-offs of each decision. So you can land and sort of optimize in a way, strategize in a way so as to land in the proper equilibrium point. As I've said in the example of obesity, the proper equilibrium point is to understand the context of modern food landscape, is to see that there's sugar and that there's sedentariness. Well, what do we have to do? We have to moderate our intake of certain foods and exercise enough. In modern dating, well, maybe Charlotte has to regulate how she approaches dating instead of trying to maximize I call this superlative seeking. So superlative seeking is richer, taller, bigger, stronger, anything anything that means that she can get a guy who is better than the next guy so she can say, look at what I have, to other females. So it's just more clout chasing, more bragging, more ego, main character syndrome. That's what's happening in modern dating. And this is why hypergamy is I call it a weapon of mass destruction, because it not only makes most women long-term losers, it also leaves out most men from what might otherwise be productive and healthy relationships.